Hello, this is Dr. Katie Novak, Assistant Superintendent, and I am here on this video to share the district data presentation with you from the 15-16 school year. I gave this presentation originally at the school committee meeting on November 28th, but now we would love to share it with our community and the public. And with me in audio, I will have all of the district curriculum leaders to talk a little bit more about their data and areas where we see great improvement and areas that we still want to focus on in the future. So when we go back to last year, when I completed the data presentation in the fall of 2015, we were talking about the data from the previous year, and there were three trends that really came up. And the first was that we had overall decreases in math in grades 3 through 6. Another was our ELA performance district-wide was declining. And lastly, there was a significant gap between our students with disabilities and all of our students. And so we decided to make some district improvement goals based on those areas of need. And we'd love to show you what ended up happening as a result. And so first of all, it's important to talk about what we did. So last year, based on an analysis of data and significant research into best practice in curriculum and instruction, we created action steps that targeted these areas of need. Throughout this presentation, you'll see that all expected outcomes from the November 2015 presentation were realized. To continue this cycle of improvement, the district needs to continue to have universally designed leadership committed to creating integrated and sustainable plans to help us realize our mission and our vision. And so what we did specifically last year is we looked at math in 3 through 8, and we did purchase a new curriculum, Eureka Math K-8. We also hired a math interventionist at the middle school, and we started focusing a lot more on professional development. And as a result, we really expected to see some increases in math in grades 3 through 8. In ELA, we started doing the work of unpacking those standards, the new Massachusetts curriculum framework, which were adopted in 2012, but the district never had significant professional development nor aligned curriculum to that. And then also in grades K to 4, we started workshopping a new model, which is called the Writers' Units of Study. And so we expected to see a very slight increase, but this year is where we're going to see some significant increases because all teachers are now using that program. And then lastly, as far as the achievement gap, we provided our teachers with some significant professional development in UDL. We also provided some intervention resources to our students, and we allowed all students to have more assessment accommodations when taking those online tests. And so I'd love to share the results of what we did and what we saw as a correlation of improvement. And so first, we're going to look at the results in math. And to share this analysis with you, I'm going to play the audio of Karen Gartland, who is our math supervisor in K to 8.
Good evening. This is Karen Gartland, the K-8 mathematics supervisor for the district. In looking at the 2016 mathematics data for the grades 3 through 8, there is clearly evidence that we can identify recognizable improvement. In particular, grade 3 showed significant gains, with 75% of the students scoring a level 4 or 5, as compared to 64% in 2015. We are also quite pleased that the students in the disabilities cohort group showed notable gains, not only by grade level, but also within the cohort as they moved from grade 3 to 4, where there's an increase from 35% to 54%. Should also be noted that the grade 4 scores showed a marked improvement from 24% to 54%. Each grade at the middle school increased the proficiency level with the exception of grade 6. However, when viewing cohort data, the students in grade 6 improved at the same rate as the other middle grades. Grades 5 and 8 showed significant improvement, and once again, 100% of our Algebra 1 8th grade students scored proficient or advanced on the Algebra 1 PARCC test. It may be surmised that the implementation of the Eureka mathematics curriculum by all K-8 teachers this past year played a role in the improved scores across the district. This curriculum is fully aligned to the Massachusetts state's curriculum frameworks and provides an appropriate balance of conceptual as well as procedural understanding, application, and rigor, mirroring the requirements for success on the PARCC test this past year. We're equally pleased about the addition of our math interventionist to the middle school staff, who primarily services Park Level 3 students with the intent of focusing on narrowing their skill gaps so that they can receive better access to their grade level curriculum within the regular classroom. The addition of my role as the K-8 mathematics supervisor this year will give us greater opportunity to focus on vertical alignment, greater attention to the implementation of the Eureka program at all levels, and to an increased amount of professional development for all teachers K-8, with an eye toward continued improvement for this year's Next Generation MCAS this coming spring. Thank you for your time.
And what Karen Gartland said is if you look at the 8th grade, it looks like maybe there was a decline in performance, but it's important to note that data is misleading because 98% of the students who took the grade 7 Park exam took the algebra exam in grade 8. So the 71 proficiency rate in grade 8 does not include the 98 students who scored level 4 or 5 on the algebra test. Moving on to elementary ELA, we also have a new position this year, which is the K-4 English Language Arts Supervisor, Kelly True, and she's going to talk a little bit about the data that we saw at the elementary level in ELA.
Hello everyone, my name is Kelly True. I'm currently the English Language Arts Supervisor in Groton-Dunstable for kindergarten through 4th grade. I'd like to thank you for joining me today to review the current data in ELA testing. When looking at the data in Table 1, we see a clear increase in the percentage of students scoring proficient at a level 4 or advanced at a level 5 on the PARCC test from 2015 to 2016. This increase can be seen within a grade level as well as within a cohort of students, such as those moving from grade 3 in 2015 to grade 4 in 2016, which was an impressive increase of 16%. Much of this progress can be attributed to the adoption of the reading workshop at the elementary level, which was a significant change in programming from the previous basal reading series. The workshop approach utilizes mini lessons to provide students with manageable segments of modeled instruction, followed by ample practice time, including small group and one-to-one practice with the classroom teacher. Our focus over the next few years will be on continuous improvement and strengthening of the workshop model in all classrooms. Table 2 houses our most impressive data, which highlights the proficiency of students with disabilities. The progress made by the cohort of students moving from grade 3 in 2015 to grade 4 in 2016 was a remarkable 28%, with 52% of 4th grade students with disabilities scoring proficient or advanced on the PARCC test. Much of the gains here can be attributed to the recently implemented co-teaching model at the elementary level. Although a relatively new model for our teachers, the delivery of instruction and support provided continue to be strengthened every year. The data shows that integrating our students with disabilities into the general education classroom with the supports they need has had a tremendous effect on student progress. Moving forward, we hope to keep the data trending upward with several new initiatives. One such initiative is the creation of my own position, which focuses on supporting teachers and administrators in the classroom, as well as through professional development and curriculum coordination. We've also taken the next steps in implementing our multi-tiered system of support in reading at the elementary level, which previously focused on struggling readers at grade 1 only. Data in Table 3 shows the effectiveness of providing intervention early and often to our most struggling students, with 96% of students finishing the year at or above grade level benchmarks. This program is now being expanded to grades 2 through 4. I'm pleased to have been able to share this data with you. Thank you for your attention.
When you look at the cumulative PPI for our students, there's also been a very impressive increase. And the PPI is basically a combination of students being able to narrow their proficiency gaps, making growth within the curriculum, and then also you can receive extra credit for decreasing the percentage of students who are failing or increasing the number of students who score advanced. So when you're looking at this, you get a number between 1 and 100. All districts, schools, and groups with sufficient data are assigned an annual PPI based on 2 years of data and a cumulative PPI between 0 and 100 based on 3 annual PPIs. The annual PPI is a measure of the improvement that a group makes towards its own target over a 2-year period on up to 7 indicators: narrowing proficiency gaps, growth, the annual dropout rate, and cohort graduation rate. And these measures are in ELA, math, and science. The cumulative PPI is an average of the group's annual PPIs over 4 years, weighting the most recent years the most. A cumulative PPI is calculated for a group if it has at least 3 annual PPIs. If a group is missing an annual PPI for 1 year, that year is left out of the weighting. While the group's annual PPI can exceed 100 points, the cumulative PPI is always reported on a 100-point scale. For a school to be considered making progress towards narrowing proficiency gaps, the cumulative PPI for both the all students group and the high needs students must be 75 or higher. As you can see on this slide, we are narrowing the proficiency gaps as a district in all 3 subject areas for students with disabilities, as we went from a PPI of 29 in 2013 to a 42 to a 64, and this year we are at a 79. So we are above the target for narrowing those gaps. However, the cumulative PPI is not yet above 75 because it's taking into account the previous 3 years. When we're also looking at the achievement gap, we want to look at the accountability data that shows us that while we're still high in comparison to, state averages, our cumulative PPI is at a 5-year low, which is an 88 overall. And while this represents a decline, there are many areas that have shown significant and meaningful improvement. While still a level 2 district, we moved 2 schools back to a non-conditional, held harmless level 1 status. That means that all schools but one are solidly in level 1 status. While we made significant progress in increasing the cumulative PPI for our students with disabilities subgroup, we're up 13 points from 49 to 62 overall this year in cumulative, we are still not meeting our state target of 75 or higher, as we talked about in the last slide. When we look deeper into the PPI for 2016, our students with disabilities have a PPI that went from 29 in 2013 to a 42 in 2014. As a result of the MTSS focus, in the past 2 years, the annual PPI for students has soared to 64 in 2015 and 79 to 2016, as discussed previously. Middle School Curriculum Coordinator Dorothy Dwyer will now share the results of middle school science.
GD is performing above the average of the best-in-class districts, and our students with disabilities are seeing significant growth. In middle school science, we are beginning to close the achievement gap between all students and students with disabilities. The middle school science department has been focused on PD to align practices to new standards and implement UDL, and this has resulted in positive trends. The middle school science department has also incorporated the technology standards to compensate for the lack of industrial arts type of elective. Our current scores are still below levels from 2012. In 2012, the district cut the stipends for the curriculum coordinators at the middle school and the elementary school, and there was no curriculum leadership to guide the department. Leadership at this time would have been critical as the math frameworks in ELA and math started to include writing standards and math standards for science and technology subjects 6 through 12, and no professional development was provided during that transition.
Next to discuss high school science is our high school 9 to 12 academic advisor, science teacher Dan Reid.
Hi, this is Dan Reid, the curriculum coordinator for high school science, and I've showed in this slide a comparison of MCAS scores for both proficient and above percentage of students and percent of students scoring advanced as compared to best-in-class schools. What you'll see in the table above is general ed students, and you'll see that if you compare the percent proficient or above, GD scores very favorably, pretty close to the best-in-class schools, whereas in the percent advanced category, we score significantly below, and that's an area of improvement that we'd like to continue looking at. It should be noted that the gap, the distance between best-in-class average and our school has been narrowing, except for this past year, and it's possibly due to a brand new scope and sequence of Bio 1, Bio 2 courses that we've rolled out recently, but this is a staggered release because we are in semester systems. So we'd like to continue to look at this in the future years to see if it stabilizes yet again. In the table below, you'll see students with disabilities. What's interesting is that this is a very small population of students, so statistics are hard to do with a population this size. But we do see that we are at an all-time high in the past 5 years for percent advanced and a second highest for percent proficient or above. So this could also be due to our new progression in Bio 1, Bio 2, which allows for more time for developing accommodations or targeting accommodations for those students with disabilities, and it certainly allows for more time for review before the exam. On slide 2, you'll see a comparison between GD's scores for students scoring 3 or above on AP exams in science versus the best in class. And what you can see is that in AP biology, GD performs closely with the best in class districts over the 5-year period, even throughout an exam change, which is marked by the asterisk. AP Physics, GD performs very well historically. Fewer than 10 students took the exam in 2013, which is why we don't have any statistics on it. But a new curriculum was instated in 2015, and in 2016, enrollment jumped significantly, and that's likely the source of our fluctuation. In AP Chemistry, GD historically performs very well. There was a new exam in the asterisk year that coincides with consecutive new AP teachers in 2014 and 15, and that can account for our fluctuation. After AP training and a year of experience, we're seeing a return to the normal state. And in AP Environmental, our 2016 dip coincides with a 30% increase in students sitting for the exam. It was a goal of our teachers to increase the actual number of students sitting versus the number of students who took the course. Interestingly, even in best-in-class districts, this test averages around 10 points lower than any of the other science APs, and only about half of the best-in-class districts even offer AP Environmental. So reasons for that are unknown, but it would be interesting to check to see what parallels can be drawn between those best-in-class schools and GD.
Although we made significant growth, there are also areas where we need to continue to make improvement, and these focus areas are where we're going to invest a lot of our professional development and time and resources this year. One of these areas is in middle school ELA, and when completing the analysis, both Adam Snodgrass, who is the social studies coordinator, and Jenn Maio, who is the ELA coordinator, reviewed the data and tried to come up with themes and also areas where we can focus our efforts to continue to improve. And so Jenn Maio, who again is the coordinator for ELA, is going to explain this data.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenn Maio. I teach 7th grade ELA and I'm also the 5 through 8 ELA curriculum coordinator. We did not expect a significant increase in ELA scores in the middle school. However, we expect to see gains starting in 2017. Last year, the ELA scope and sequence was finalized for K through 12, so teachers received PD focused on the standards throughout the year, although the alignment work was not completed until this summer. As a result, we expect to see growth in grades 5 and 6 and sustained growth in 7 and 8 in the 2017 data. One area the middle school would like to celebrate is the grade 7 data. Grade 7 used time during the summer of 2015 to begin to align their work to the standards by implementing the reading-writing workshop model, which gets students reading and writing a lot. Also, they adopted a BYOD initiative. We believe these changes resulted in significant gains. In addition to aligning our curriculum to the standards, the middle school hired a reading interventionist, adding to our ability to provide Tier 2 services to students.
We also need to focus on trying to make more improvements in the high school humanities. And so Kelly Cook is the academic advisor at the high school, and Keith Woods is the social studies advisor at the high school. And both of them work together to look at the humanities data and also to make some suggestions for what we need to focus on in the future.
AP scores have increased because of how much AP professional development was offered in the last few years at the high school. More teachers doing AP reading, scoring, more teachers attending AP annual conferences, week-long AP training workshops. Note that SAT scores offer performance ratings for the general population, not just AP students. Gains in writing have been minimal. We will continue to provide students with rigorous opportunities to write in response to text using universally designed assessments and document-based questions, or DBQs. A DBQ is a question proposed to the student that offers them 8 to 12 primary sources that they must analyze, synthesize, and then build into their persuasive arguments.
When averaging all the scores of the best-in-class districts, Groton-Dunstable performs lower than the average scores of all the best-in-class schools. Despite having significantly less resources, though, we still have a comparable number scoring proficient. Last year, we had a dip in the number of students scoring advanced on the MCAS. We believe this is because of a combination of factors, including staffing changes and scheduling difficulties. It is important to note that the population of students with disabilities nearly doubled last year, yet scores remained stable and we actually increased in advanced performance slightly.
Derek Asadoorian, who is the academic advisor for mathematics at the high school, will now present the mathematics data.
This is Derek Asadoorian of the Groton-Dunstable High School Math Department. GD High School math students continue to perform well and at a consistent level, even against the most competitive schools in the state. This has been maintained throughout many personnel changes over the past 5 years. It is a testament to the strong curriculum and diligence of the students and teachers. In addition, the support of departmental autonomy to continually develop the curriculum and best teaching practices has certainly contributed to the success of the program.
When looking at our world language results in high school, Jacquie Liebold, who is the world language advisor in grades 9 to 12, talks about the AP Spanish results, and she explains them for us in both English and in Spanish.
El Departamento de Lenguajes Mundiales ha beneficiado enormemente de los cursos del diseño universal de aprendizaje en conjunto con un crecimiento de la mentalidad, manteniendo los niveles del Estado a primer plano, mientras incorporando el diseño universal de aprendizaje y el programa OWL, Lenguas Orgánicas Mundiales, en conjunto con el desarrollo profesional, continuará a mejorar nuestros resultados en las clases DAP.
And now the English translated version for us.
The World Language Department has benefited enormously from UDL courses and changing to a growth mindset. Keeping state standards at the forefront while incorporating UDL and now OWL, Organic World Language, and PD, Professional Development, will continue to improve our overall AP results.
When looking at our ACT scores, we are at a 5-year high for our composite scores, and we are also at a 5-year high in science and math. However, when you look at our English scores, we have declined slightly, which is a trend that we are seeing district-wide, as you've seen in the other grades. As well as in reading, there's a slight decline from the high in 2014. And so we continue to explore what we can do in ELA. ELA is an area where we're definitely going to focus significant professional development on curriculum alignment. In the needs assessment, we did request release time for department heads to provide more of this PD to teachers and support classroom redesign, as well as an additional English teacher to help with class size, but we did not receive those. So we're going to continue to look for areas where we can invest in our ELA instruction. Lastly, we'd like to look at the district accountability versus the DART districts, and these are the districts that are assigned to us by the state because we have similar enrollment and populations, as well as those best-in-class districts that were identified in the needs assessment. The district analysis and review tool, known as DART, allows Massachusetts districts to view districts and schools that are most comparable to their own. When comparing ourselves to the DART schools selected by the Mass Department of Ed, our math scores compare much more favorably when examining both performance and growth. And so as you can see there that, even though our ELA scores are higher than math, which is a state trend, our ELL scores are actually ranked 11 out of 11 when compared to DART districts, where our math is ranked 2 out of 11. When comparing GD against the best-in-class districts, both performance and growth are lower. As we discussed in our needs assessment, these districts have significantly more resources for instructional materials and professional development. The following excerpts are from the needs assessment. And so one thing we found was our instructional materials expenditures are significantly lower than best-in-class districts. Our average spending on instructional materials, and the average spending of instructional materials in best-in-class districts is $410 per pupil. The state average is $409. In FY14 in Groton-Dunstable, it was $124 per student. Also, when examining best-in-class districts, our funding for professional development is significantly lower. We compare against most up-to-date state reported fiscal information, and in PD, the average 2014 per pupil expenditure was $178 per student. We spend $139. Our school enrollment is just about 2,500, so if we were to spend the average PPE, that would be an additional $100,000 for professional development. And so what do we do moving forward? What we are trying to do is create a 5-year district strategy that will allow us to continue to invest our time and resources into areas where we have already made growth, while also balancing that with providing some sort of intervention in areas where we need to see more significant improvement. The smooth alignment of the district improvement plan, the needs assessment, and the adoption of a budget, and the investment of resources to address areas of need will ensure a significant growth for all students. As we move forward, it's our hope that our district vision, core values, and strategy are realized so we can create sustainable funding moving forward and truly become best in class. So thank you so much for viewing the district presentation. Also, thank you to all the curriculum leadership for working very closely with me and also with their departments to analyze this data and to come up with action plans for how we're going to address our needs while also continuing to make growth in the future.